Hi everyone, this is a quick video on how tips work. This is a separate video than how paychecks work. There's been a lot of questions about how tips work, and there's two ways that you get tips. And the first is cash tips into the little tip cup on the counter, but that's pretty small. That's only like a couple dollars a day. And the big way that you get tips is they get left on the credit card by the customer, so they fill out the tip line. The tips go on your paycheck at the end of the pay period. There's a separate line item for them. The paycheck tips all go to the person who earned them, and the POS makes a report at the end of the pay period, and it totals everybody's tips and how much they made in tips, and it subtracts the bank processing fee from the tips that you get, which is like 3% or something like that, because the bank charges us to process the paychecks. And then the tips, I mean. And then the cash tips are all put in the back, and at the end of 2 weeks, they're all added up, and then they're divided amongst all of the employees who worked, and it's weighted by the number of hours. So if you have one employee who worked 9 hours and another employee who worked 1 hour, the employee who worked 9 hours would get 90% of the tips, and the employee who only worked 1 hour would get 10% of the tips. So it's all weighted according to how many hours everybody works. And the two tip amounts are combined and they're added onto your paychecks. And paycheck tips can generally be in the neighborhood of maybe as much as $200, and I've seen them as much as $300. And $300 in a pay period added onto your check is going to bring your total wages up well over $20 an hour. And most people would rather have that big $300 on the end of their check when they get their check. It's an extra $300 rather than get like $2 or $3 a day for the course of 2 weeks and just have the money kind of dissipate. It's much more impressive to get that extra money. And the other advantage to you is that it saves you the trouble of having to report your tips to the IRS. And the IRS knows that you work in a coffee shop because it's on your pay stub and everything. And so you would have to declare your tips if we didn't add them onto your paychecks. So on account of the fact that we add them onto your paychecks, you don't have to declare them to the IRS. I would have no guidance on how to do that. I absolutely have no idea. But I do know that you're required to declare your tips, and then you have to pay taxes on them. So it's not really a good thing for you to have to get the cash tips, because then you have to keep track of them and you have to report them to the IRS. And this way, it's all streamlined. You don't have to worry about anything. All the taxes are taken care of. The reporting to the IRS is taken care of. The reporting to the state government is taken care of, and they just appear on your paycheck. Another advantage to you about having it done this way is that it contributes to your Social Security, so that when you get to be in your 60s and you want to collect Social Security, you'll get a lot more money because the tips counted towards your income. And if tips don't count towards your income, then you're not going to get much for Social Security. So that's an important benefit. So that's the second benefit. The first benefit of them being on your paycheck is you don't have to report tip withholding to the IRS. The second benefit is that when you get to be Social Security time, you're going to get more money. And the third benefit is that when the tips are all included there, you get a larger amount of tips. So your pay, you could prove, is higher. And so if you go to get a credit card or go to get a car loan or go to rent a house or do anything where they want to verify your income, you have a higher income for them to verify, which will allow you to get more credit, get a better rate, get a bigger car, whatever it is that you want to do. If you can prove those tips, an extra $300 a pay period, which is $600 a month, which is $7,200 a year. If you can prove that you're making $7,000 more than just your paycheck, you will be able to get much better rates and much better interest and much better car loans and much better everything financial. So that's three big advantages to you of having them added onto your paycheck. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm always available to answer your questions. Okay? Thanks a lot. We appreciate your work in here. Bye-bye. I wanted to add one more thing about why it's a good idea to have your tips added onto your paycheck. There was a guy that I followed a little bit. His name was Charlie Trotter, and he had a 5-star restaurant in Chicago called Charlie Trotter's, and he wrote a lot of books about service and wine and running successful companies. And he started out as a server, and he got tips. And he said that when he worked at places and he got cash tips at the end of the night, there was just something about walking out of his job with what he called a handful of grubby money and grubby tips that made him feel less prestigious than to get a nice big paycheck. So that was his opinion on it. I thought it made a lot of sense. I've done tippable work in my life too, and there is something to be said for the professionality of having all the money that you make on a paycheck rather than walk out at the end of every night with $2 or $3 in cash. So if that makes any sense to you, there it is. All right. Thanks for watching.